Hi everybody. I guess everybody's sick and tired of this pandemic we've been going through by now. We all want it to go away, but if it has shown something that might be valuable to us, I think one thing is that it has shown very clearly, it has shown us all, shown the whole of humanity really, because we're all integrated and the whole globe is acting practically in the same way, which is unique and interesting in and of itself. Well, one thing that it has shown is that what it entails for us when we let ourselves be controlled by elites. You know, after the lockdowns, which most countries engaged in, not all, but most, which showed not to be particularly effective or do anything really rather than stoke fear. After those, now we have the vaccine mandates. Okay? I'm talking mainly about the United States here. In the United States, nurses, for instance, are being fired from their hospitals because they haven't gotten the jabs, they haven't been vaccinated, but they are immune because they've had the disease. They've worked in hospitals for 1.5 years, treating COVID-19 patients, taking care of those, getting sick themselves, having had the disease, gone through the disease, come out of it, recovered, and now have strong natural immunity. So, I mean, they won't get reinfected. The likelihood of that is way lower than for those people who just had the vaccines and haven't had the disease. But still, they're being fired. There are estimates in the United States, and this first figure that I'm going to mention is an estimate from the actual CDC, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, that 100 million Americans have had the disease, have had COVID-19. So 1/3 of the population is naturally immune, which means that, maximum 66% of the population should need to take the vaccine in order to achieve, herd immunity or complete coverage. There are other estimates actually saying that maybe as many as 200 million Americans have had the disease. That's 2/3 of the population almost. So, you see my point here. There's a big Israeli study that is being discussed a lot out there, not so much in the mainstream media, unsurprisingly, but in a lot of places. It's a big Israeli study that was conducted some time ago. I think it was published during the summer, where 650 to 700,000 Israeli people, somewhere around there, those figures have been studied, followed up, and they compared a group of those who have had the disease and another group who haven't had the disease but have had 2 jabs of I think it was the Pfizer vaccine, Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine. So 2 vaccines from that variety of vaccines, and in one group, and the first group having had the disease but no vaccine. And then they compared the likelihood of being reinfected. And it turned out that the group that had the disease and was naturally immune had a 27 times lower likelihood of getting symptomatically reinfected by COVID-19 with symptoms. So to be reinfected and have symptoms, 27 times lower likelihood than those who hadn't had the disease but only had taken the vaccine. Now that's pretty compelling in my world. There are also other studies, like one I've been mentioning before, a Swedish study, longitudinal study at a hospital here in Sweden, Danderyd Hospital, which also shows that, and they've been checking people now for over a year, and they can conclude that at least after a year after having had the disease, you still have robust immunity. There are other studies, also an interesting Singaporean study, which shows that people who had the SARS-CoV-1 virus were infected by the SARS-CoV-1 virus back in the day, Anyway, those who were infected by that variety, which was also a coronavirus, they also have robust immunity against SARS-CoV-2. So this is interesting because it means that if you have been infected by any kind of coronavirus, and there are also other studies that having checked, these mild varieties of coronaviruses, those who, I think there are four variants around, and they've been here for decades. They mainly give a common cold to people who get them. And if you've had those, you are also at least partially immune to SARS-CoV-2. So, I mean, all these studies are showing that natural immunity is good, and if you had the actual disease, it's pretty robust. It's most likely stronger than if you only have had the vaccine and not the disease. And still, there is this vaccine mandate. The vaccine mandate, despite the fact that all these people are robustly immune. I mean, and here in this country, in Sweden, it's not as bad as in the United States that people get fired for not having taken the vaccine or things like that. But it's a shame game, really, because people who are representing the authorities, particularly the public health authority, they did talk about natural immunity before the vaccines, but now they never talk about it. They just say that, okay, we lift the restrictions now, and we sincerely really hope that people have been vaccinated. Go and do it. Just vaccinate yourself, people. Do it. You need to take the vaccine. And of course, I mean, they can say that, but they should, I think it would be honest if they also mention natural immunity, because the thing we want to achieve is immunity, okay? Right? Isn't it? I mean, how we achieve that immunity, does that really matter? And I think the journalists should also ask these questions. They never ask these questions in the press conferences. So what about natural immunity? Never heard that question for a long time, at least. So anyway, it's the same principle, but people aren't getting fired. But and speaking of principle, because personally, I'm not afraid of the vaccine itself. I don't think it's dangerous or anything like that. Like I've mentioned before, I've probably had 50 jabs in my life. My body's full of vaccines of different types. I've been traveling a lot. So it's not that. And I mean, if the vaccines were dangerous, we would see that now. I mean, if they were truly dangerous, there are some side effects. We know about those. And they withdrew, I think, Moderna's vaccine the other day here because of some problems with the heart in some people who've gotten it. But it's the principle. It is the principle, because we want to achieve natural immunity. And if people for some reason haven't taken the vaccine, maybe they're scared of it, maybe whatever, if they have had the disease, they are immune. They shouldn't be fired, especially if they're nurses, which are so much needed now at the hospitals for all kinds of reasons. So it's the principle. They're often talking about the need for ordinary people to be informed, inform yourself. But do you think that this is a very good example of the elites, the leaders, asking people to make informed decisions? I think not. I think it's the opposite, really. Because, I mean, if you inform yourself and you get to know about these things, you understand that you don't need to take the vaccine if you've had the disease, because you have a robust immunity. So I think let people think for themselves and be their own judges, especially when it comes to their own bodies and their own health and all that. So with a drastic comparison, perhaps I can just mention it. It seems a little bit like we might be moving towards a situation where like the one in China, where they have this social, what is it called now? The social credit system they have, judging citizens' behavior in all facets of life. Social credit system. Is that something we would like to have everywhere? I don't think so. But this vaccine mandate is a little bit like that. It's going in that direction. So hopefully this pandemic can make us think a little bit about what kind of society, what kind of leaders, what kind of system we want, and to what extent we need to trust each other and trust each other's judgment instead of shaming each other. Okay, have a nice week now. See you next time. Bye-bye. If you like this video and other interviews and talks on Mind the Shift, please like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate all the support. Thank you.